Good evening, Jeopardy fans, and welcome to hashtag Jeopardy Live Panel presented by thejeopardyfan.com. Once again, and as always, I am Andy Saunders, and I will be moderating tonight's discussion. Our panel, we've finally got everyone together and working. We had some technical issues, so that happens sometimes. I will introduce tonight's panel in order of when you first appeared on the show. First up tonight, congratulations on your 6 victories on the show. Welcome to hashtag Jeopardy Live Panel, Rob Worman.
Thank you very much, Andy. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm a fan of the show.
Thank you very much. And our second panelist this evening, welcome, Kate Tucci.
Hi, guys.
So, if you've got any questions for our panel, you can always leave them on the hashtag on Twitter, hashtag Jeopardy Live Panel. We've also got the YouTube live chat. To everyone who's tuning in, thanks for being patient with us as we sorted out our technical issues. So, my first question, it's kind of become my first question here on hashtag Jeopardy Live Panel a bit. I would say most Jeopardy fans have kind of an origin story, as it were, as to how they became Jeopardy fans in the first place. So, Rob and Kate, how did you both become Jeopardy fans?
I first remember Jeopardy in the form of my dad suggested that I try out for Teen Jeopardy, and I think I was probably 14 at the time. It might have been the first or second time Jeopardy had a teen tournament. We took a road trip from Dayton, Ohio to Pittsburgh, I think it was. And I remember not getting past the first test, I think. But I was a fan of the show.
Yep.
And I've watched it off and on ever since.
Very nice, very nice. And how about you, Kate?
I used to watch with my dad pretty religiously. It was, 7 o'clock on the dot, Jeopardy time. And I think I was probably like 10 when I started answering more questions correctly than he did. And I also actually tried out for the teen tournament. I made it to the callbacks and couldn't get the buzzer to work. So that was kind of the driving force for me to continue to try out as an adult.
Nice. So did you find that the buzzer worked better for you as an adult when you actually made the show?
Yeah, the buzzer definitely worked a lot better for me this time around.
And how about you, Rob? Did you have how was your experience with the buzzer, both on the show and even in the audition?
I had a good feel for it. I gotta say, most games I was more often pleased than frustrated with the buzzer. The last game with Alan, well, maybe less so. Alan had the mojo, no question. He had some good category luck as well, which I was no stranger to. Just a game or two before, I had crazy category luck. But that last game, it also felt like he was faster every time. There were an awful lot of questions I was eager to answer, but I didn't get the chance. Alan had me. So what is that? 6 out of 7. So 86% of the time, I was very happy with the buzzer.
Well, as a lot of people say, I guess it's a good thing that that happened in Game 7 and not Game 1.
Absolutely.
And obviously, you had Did you also? Did you find it difficult to compete against Alan on the buzzer at least a little bit, Kate? Judging by how much or how dominant Rob just said he was against him.
He was definitely quick. It felt like at the time we were pretty even. I actually went back and looked at some stats, and we answered the same amount of questions. I just got more of them wrong. But he was definitely, there were some that I thought I definitely beat him, and I was like, how is he already getting this? I don't understand.
Exactly.
So, going back a little bit, my next question is, it's kind of, there's a part here for both of you. And obviously, Marty Cunningham was incredibly strong as a player when you were sitting there in the bullpen, and then he got defeated. And in your case, Kate, Rob was doing pretty darn well, and then he got defeated. So, how was there some sort of shared relief for the both of you in terms of seeing a really good player get defeated just before you get called into play?
Rob, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I didn't really think of it that way. The biggest thing I was glad for was that I wasn't the Monday player because I didn't want to go sight unseen onto the stage and play a game. Yes, they give you an opportunity to practice with the buzzer. Everybody gets that opportunity for the first morning experience before they start taping that Monday show. But that's what I really didn't want to have happen. So lucky me, I got to watch the Monday show. I got to watch the Tuesday show, which happened to be the one where Marty lost and Frank won. And then I got to go on for the Wednesday show. I wasn't so much, I don't think it would have bothered me to be playing against Frank versus playing against Marty. It was more, I was glad I got a chance to get my feet wet from the audience first.
Now, being from Los Angeles, Kate, just sorry to interrupt. Were you a local alternate who got the chance to play first?
I was. And so I knew when I was going into it that if I played at all, it was going to be the Friday game. So for the first 3.5 games, I was just kind of chilling in the audience and watching it. But I mean, Rob was dominant. And we were all watching from the audience. We were like, oh, God. So when Alan, won the Thursday game, that was the first chance that I really had to think of like, oh wow, this is like something that very, very possibly could be me next, and it was. Um, but I kind of looked at it the same way. I don't think it would have changed the way I played. The other players that were in the audience, I think, felt a little bit differently. But for me, it's about me and the board and not who's necessarily next to me. So
yeah, exactly.
yeah. Sorry, I'm getting text.
No, that's okay. That's okay. So, what did the now? I feel as though, judging from what I've seen or what I saw on your respective appearances, I get the sense the two of you had different approaches to preparation, at least in terms of strategy. Now, how did you both elect to prepare for the show?
You go first. You get to go first this time.
I kind of looked at my soft points and figured out what I needed to work on. Spent about $250 on U.S. history books on Amazon, which came in not helpful at all. Especially because they are still sitting 85% unopened in my living room right now. For me, my biggest thing that I actually practiced, other than just going back over what I already knew and absorbing knowledge, was practicing not blurting out the answer until Alex was done with the question. So watching at home and playing along that way was a big help to me.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would agree. Going with the Bob Harris book, the 10 Years in Trebekistan, which he certainly is a passionate advocate for, replicate the experience as best you can. I did a fair amount of that, not religiously. I to be honest, the most regularly I've watched Jeopardy has been in the past month. Since my taping, I couldn't tell you why it's so important to me that I watched every single day, but I did. As opposed to before that, I might have watched one or two a week, and then it peaked certainly the 2 weeks before my show. I watched a little more religiously, but I did a little more drilling of facts via flashcards than I did practice of gameplay as it approached,
Now,
which seemed to help.
I mean, I have a theory as to why you're watching a little more religiously now, and that would be advanced scouting for the Tournament of Champions. But
yeah, okay, maybe it's not so strange.
Now, the reason why I brought that up is because there were a lot of people online who were wondering about specifically Kate, your wager in Final Jeopardy.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of commentary about that. I had done a little bit of research on how to wager, and I did a little bit of the math, and I knew what number I was supposed to wager, and I looked at it, and the only thing that flashed through my head was a comment I had seen on one of the J boards saying, "Go big or go home." So I went big, and then I went home.
Oh no! That hurts. That just kind of hurt.
I don't regret it as much as I probably should. I'm trying really, really hard to not regret it as much as I should. But I did see someone make the comment of, "Oh, she shouldn't have gone for the pretty number." I went for the pretty number because it's a pretty number. And if I had won, nobody would be questioning it.
No, that's true. That's true.
So,
Well, I would say that there would be people who would still be saying things, but they wouldn't have said it in the context of,
Yeah. See what it did to her. Instead, it would have been, boy, she got lucky.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Which I did. I did the same thing in. I forget which game it was. I overbet way too much.
You overbet way too much. I think it was your second.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking
It was
too.
I think it was your second game. But yeah, definitely while I was still on my holiday, that was.
Yes.
But sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
That's right.
Another thing that a lot of people have been talking about online, not as much on individual gameplay, but holy cow, there have been a lot of clues that have gone unrevealed lately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, not knowing the context of what it was like to tape an episode last season, I can only tell you that, and Kate, I'm sure you had this exact same experience when you guys were taping your episode, that every break, the very first thing, or maybe it was the very last thing, that that Glenn would say, come up to each of the podiums, and he would be like, "Okay, you have to say the category name just the first time, but then you can shorten it. Category name number, category name number. Let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving." Right? Do you remember that?
Yeah, Glenn definitely was trying, and I think we only left 2 of the Chester Allen Arthur clues uncovered because that category popped up, and I think we all kind of died a little bit inside. And I felt like they were really pushing our game because it was the last one of the day, and there had been a lot of clues uncovered.
Yeah.
So I did feel a little bit more of a push from the team on that one, which I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I even in one game, the 5th game, I think it was, I even played the video category game properly in Double Jeopardy, such that I left the last clue, or I certainly did my best to avoid it, and everybody else did too. So the very last clue on the board was the Wrinkle in Time video category, and lo and behold, we got through the board.
Yeah.
And I murmured something to Glenn about that after the fact. I was like, "Yeah, you guys have to get through all those, don't you?" And I think he smiled. He might not have. I don't remember. But he what did he say? He made a comment about, or I made the comment of, "Boy, we keep missing all these boards, not clearing them out. We really suck, I guess." And he said, "Nah, we've been writing really wordy clues." So
Yeah.
that was the inside comment at the time.
And I think that's interesting. I know my experience personally, putting the odd game into J Archive from this season, I have been noticing that there are a lot of video clues and a lot of just so many. It's like, because the video clues, they have license to be longer with the wording on them, because they don't have to put they put the picture up on the screen and not the wording of the clue.
So it can be so long that it's 2 screens worth, because as the video plays, we see the words on the game board, and it's not uncommon that it's a screen's worth of words, ... The video clue continues, and then here's the second screen's worth of clues. Mm-hmm. So further cementing your point there of they don't have to be as short as they would otherwise.
Mm-hmm. So, Kate, this one's specifically for you. Alan's interview on Friday, where basically Alex was like, "And we're just going to give you $1,600. Let's get back to the game." Was something cut off there?
I think it was a combination of things, because what had happened was during the commercial break, Alan had contested Let It Ride, which I thought was fair. I don't know enough about that kind of gambling to really comment on acceptability or not. But he had brought it up and they were reviewing it. And I think they were, because the games had been going a little bit longer at that taping, they trimmed our, chat points a little bit. And so that was Alan's chat point was congratulations, you're now 1,600 up. Which, I mean, if they had done that for everybody, I think that would have been a pretty nice chat point, but I understood it on Alan's case.
So did he not even get an interview question at all?
Okay. Not for that thing. I don't think so. You know what? Actually, now that I think about it, I don't remember what it was, but I think he did, and then so maybe they just trimmed it for broadcast.
Yeah, that'd be my guess too. Interesting.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah, because I mean, it's a noteworthy occurrence when somebody doesn't get their interview. Basically, one famous occurrence of it was I don't know if you guys remember a few years back the quick read story with the unfortunate demise of a pygmy goat. The champion also didn't get the interview that day either. Just because she took so long explaining about the poor goat, and yeah.
So how do you even know this happened? A audience member shared the story somehow?
What do you mean?
Well, you know there is a story of a quick treat and a pygmy goat.
Oh no, they were the middle contestant.
Yeah, the middle contestant spoke about the pygmy goat, and then the champion were like, Alex, I have no time. Sorry, we're going back to the game.
I see. That's funny.
I think for the sake of full disclosure, I should say they, in post-editing, did trim my little chat point because I didn't know how to put a nice little end at the end of my thing. So they kindly cut about 10 seconds off of mine.
We missed some good Kate rambling. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know that it would be good, but it was very classic.
Okay. I know you. I thought I saw you mention this on Twitter, but you have green hair, yet you are not Slytherin.
It's true. It's I did break a lot of hearts over the weekend, I think, but my favorite color has been green for a very long time. I work in my day job is also a very non-standard, non-professional line of work. So there was one day that I was just like, heck, why not? And I've just kind of rolled with it. To anyone who's taking the online test and wondering what it takes to get that little extra edge in, dye your hair a fun color. It seems to work. But yeah, Gryffindor on the inside. But I'm from Los Angeles, so wearing Gryffindor colors is also USC colors, and then it starts fights, and it's not a path I like going down.
Fair enough. So, Rob, I thought I saw you somewhere mentioning about being surprised that they gave you credit for when I saw her standing there on in the Beatles category.
Yes, in the moment, I knew as I was saying it, I was on shaky ground, or at least I thought I was, because I seem to recall, a parenthetical in the song title, and am I getting this wrong? And so my gut told me that I was wrong in the strictest of senses. At the time, I really wasn't that familiar with how the Jeopardy rules handle song titles. And in the intervening time between my taping and when it aired, I realized, oh no, I was on perfectly solid ground because I gave a valid lyric, even if I didn't give the perfect title.
Yep. And the example I like to call it the drive my car rule. As in Final Jeopardy about a decade ago, someone gave "Baby You Can Drive My Car," which valid lyric, and they accepted it. And
not the title of the song, however.
Right.
Yeah.
So, were there any stoppages in your games that you remember? Like where they had to stop tape in the middle and discuss something, or maybe a clue had technical difficulties and they had to replace it?
We didn't have any clues replaced. I can remember certainly stoppages for Alex mistakenly saying correct when the answer wasn't. That happened at least twice that I can recall. Kate, did you guys have technical
to be perfectly honest, I don't remember if we had any stoppages. There was the one contested clue that I remember, but I think we went pretty straight through.
Yeah, and in my case, the stoppage made me sound right. In other words, it was the clue or the answer was Rabbit Run, the John Updike title, and I said Rabbit Runs real
Oh,
loud. I was blatantly wrong. I knew it as I was saying it. The wording of the clue was tricky, and I just got confused, even though I knew the title of the book. And so
yeah.
Alex actually said I was correct, and then the judges murmured, and so they stopped the tape and they re-recorded Alex's response so that he could say I was wrong. But in the edit, they started that re-recording pretty much before the S came out. So I had so many friends calling to me saying, "You were totally right. You said Rabbit Run. There was no S." And I had to explain,
Yeah.
"Oh no, I said the S. Had to re-record Alex. Blah blah blah." And
I
then
do think my favorite re-record from that tape day though was Rob when you sang and then they were like, "You can't sing. Stop having so much fun."
how can I forget about that one?
That
Yes,
was
yes,
great.
yes.
Which song was
So I
this?
did not get to be. It was Obla Di Obla Da, one of my
Ah,
favorite Beatles songs. That Beatles category, for the sake of record keeping, that is the only category that I actually ran. And being that I played it the way I played it, you don't get credit when you start in the middle and then you eventually finish it. But I was so thrilled when I saw a Beatles lyrics category. And one of them, Obla Di Obla Da, I took it upon myself to sing the lyric. And they, at the break, said, "We're going to have to re record that because you can't sing a lyric." Apparently, I mean, I don't know the rules there. You hear
It's
people do it other times.
so I've
um,
worked on music television shows.
Yeah.
It's a licensing thing. If you sing the lyrics, they have to pay the full licensing fees,
Yeah.
which are expensive for Beatles.
But for some songs, it feels like contestants have occasionally sung the tune, and you hear it on the show. Maybe it's because it's an old public domain song or something.
it's
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But that was certainly an interesting thing for them to redo.
Yeah.
And then the third one, actually, I have a third one, Andy. This is kind of funny.
Okay.
It was it was the fourth game. No, yeah, fourth, no, fifth game. Sorry. So that would have been this week's Tuesday game.
Mhm.
Um, and it was Damien, the security guard on the end, really tall guy, who said road rage. No, road rage was the answer, and he said roid rage. Alex ruled
Yeah.
him correct. The judges murmured, so they had to re-record Alex's response. And when they do that, as we all know, the other contestants have to act like they're not trying to buzz in. They have to let it go by as if it were a stumper and they had no clue. And if you watch me at that moment, I roll my and I didn't even remember doing it until I happened to watch it again. And I was like, what am I? Oh, right. We had to fake like we didn't know that easy answer.
Yeah.
That's the other one.
That was rough to watch.
So, now with you, Kate, did Alex talk about in your interview what you expected he'd talk about?
He did. I had given a couple things that I was like, it was so basically it was the two things I'm most obsessed with is Harry Potter and penguins. Um, so I was very ready for either of those. I was a little confused the way he introduced it because to me, Harry Potter is a book first, movie later. So for a second, I was like, I don't know what's, oh, right, this is what's happening. Okay, now I can focus on it.
Now, with you, Rob, how difficult is it coming up with 7 different interview stories?
Difficult, certainly. I don't know if I can rattle off the ones I had the first three, but then, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then you get a night off. And I was certainly given the marching orders of, I need some more better stories when you come back in the morning, Rob. What you got here is not good enough. And I thought they were pretty good. I mean, I was pretty good at telling the stories, even if they sounded kind of lame on paper, or so I thought. Um, and I even think I'm having trouble recalling them, but I feel like I had a couple that kept getting passed over that, boy, I could have really smacked them out of the park if Alex had chosen to ask me about, well, I can't remember what.
Okay, so did either of you have any sort of watch parties?
Kate, you're first.
Okay. Yeah, I did. I had, let's see, I was working on Friday, so I had to pick someplace close to work so that I didn't show up to my own party late. But we had a bunch of people over at a little sports bar nearby. I think it was a 1-to-1 ratio of people I have become friends with on my own and people that my parents know and are friends with because of my parents. Um, so it was pretty exciting. It was really nice to, obviously I knew what was happening. Not everybody knew what was happening because I had kept it very quiet until it went up on the website that I was a contestant that week. So to finally let it all play out in the public domain, surrounded by people that I knew already liked me, was really good for me.
Nice.
And in my case, the Minneapolis market, they air Jeopardy at 4:30, which is
Oh,
so early. It's really tough to do like you just described, which I would have loved to do. Let's all go to a bar, the place we go regularly enough for lunch. They would have loved to host the party, and 4:30, no, nobody can really pull that off. So instead, what I was able to do is at the place I work, an office building with a big cafeteria and TVs all around the walls. So every day at 4:30, we had a happy hour basically, and the company was nice enough to have snacks and some adult beverages for people if they so chose. So that became a pretty fun little tradition of a watch party at work, basically.
Now,
nice.
it's interesting that you mentioned let's wait for the website to say that you are a contestant because that actually kind of is a good way of dealing with my next question because obviously you were you would have been both told that your air date would have been 2 weeks later originally at the studio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess how was it when you found out that hey my air date is 2 weeks earlier?
Rob, you go first.
I feel like they gave us about 3 weeks notice, maybe enough notice. And because I didn't have much in the way, there was one big weekend party that my brother threw that had to be rescheduled, but it wasn't such a big party and it wasn't such last minute notice that it was an issue. So I didn't think it was a problem. 3 weeks notice and we were good.
Okay.
And you know what I really appreciated in my case was the first day of taping went from February 28th, which is okay, that's not too hard to remember, to February 14th, which became very easy for me to tell everyone I knew, Valentine's Day, tune in, Valentine's Day. So I kind of like that. That was a fortuitous change.
There we go.
And yeah, with you obviously, yeah, you got 3 weeks notice, and you didn't really have much in terms of rescheduling to have to do.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, it was I was trying to get more stuff up on the blog because the blog was really a side hobby project thing that I was trying to make into a reality. So it's a little more sparse than I would have liked it.
You had 2 weeks taken off of your time frame for that
I did,
content
and
generation.
one of those weeks was going to be a very quiet week when I could have cranked out a bunch of writing, and I didn't have that. But it is what it is, and there it is.
Now, you were introduced as a blogger, obviously. What was the rationale behind going with that as opposed to you mentioned you have your day job, as it were.
So I work in television production, and I work for a pretty big show. I'm not allowed to say what show I work on, but it's a very big show that pretty much everybody has probably seen or heard of. And when I was approached, I was first concerned that working on that show would affect my eligibility as a contestant.
Okay.
And when that was confirmed to not be a problem, I talked to Karina and said, I'd rather not go on a TV show saying that I work in TV, which she agreed with and said, you can, but it doesn't always come off great with people. And I totally understand that. It looks like it's an inside trading sort of thing.
Yeah.
Blogging is something that I've been trying to make more of a part of my life. So I'm hoping that now I can build it into a side hustle instead of just a hobby, and take it from there.
Now, what is your blog about?
So the inspiration behind my blog, I'm a big reader, and I'm also a big eater. And so I tried to combine the two things. And so it's all recipes inspired by, I'm trying to stay within works of literature, but also probably expanding into pop culture, and other movies and television shows. So I did start with a Harry Potter based recipe. I made the chocolate cake from Matilda that the Trunchbull has in her office, and little Bruce Bogtrotter eats all to himself. I did a Dickens style goose for Christmas, but the pictures came out so badly that I would have PETA blowing down my door to like come and get me. It's like I need to totally figure out how to re-photograph that. Um,
That's great.
so
rock cakes. I saw the rock cakes on your blog, right?
rock cakes were one that I was like, what are these things supposed to be like? And they're basically scones, so they're pretty easy. And so I tried to make it an approachable recipe. The goal would be to build to a point where I can interview writers about their favorite foods and chefs about their favorite books.
Writers. Oh, that's cool.
So the ideal would be like getting Anthony Bourdain in the chair and just because he's done both. So
Yeah. Fun.
Nice. Speaking of food, both of you got the opportunity to have lunch on Sony's dime at the commissary. So I asked the both of you, what did you have for lunch?
Go ahead, Kate.
I had a salad, I think, which is super boring. I'm sorry.
Well, I don't know if there's an exciting answer to the question of lunch, but I had a BLT and sun chips and orange juice. Both days. I was rather superstitious, I suppose, and the second day it felt important to me that I have a BLT, sun chips, and orange juice.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Plus, it was quick. There was definitely a pretty big crowd at the commissary that first day, especially.
I went with the salad bar because that was quicker.
Exactly. The advice I was given was get your sandwich order in quick before the rush hits. And so I figured I'd get a BLT, which I like anyway, and it's a pretty quick one.
Nice.
Kind of light in the grand scheme of things, and I didn't want to get that double cheeseburger. Oh.
Yeah. So, how different is it watching Jeopardy now compared to when you were, compared to before you taped and had the opportunity to be in studio, watch games, be on set yourself and play? So, how different is it watching the show now?
Your turn, Kate.
Rob, you go first.
No,
my turn?
Go
okay.
First.
No, you go first.
Okay, I'll go first. It's fun. It's certainly fun to pick up on little itty bitty details. Like you can hear Alex Trebek making the X's on his piece of paper sometimes. If you listen real close, you'll hear this after a clue is given, and I know what that is because I watched him do it when I was standing up there. And also, it's fun to kind of look for the edits to notice. I think they had to redo something there. I will say that I kind of regret watching the game right after my game. In other words, the game, and it was your game, Kate.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with you, first of all. No offense.
None taken.
But essentially to watch the game and to think, oh, those categories look like something I might have done a little better with. What if they had just swapped the cards and I would have ended up, who knows, all of that what if thinking.
Yeah.
But that said, no, it's still great fun to watch.
I haven't watched the episode after mine yet because it hasn't aired. Oh, it's airing like now. I'll record it and watch it later.
We won't tell you how it ends.
Okay, thank you. But for me, it's more sympathy towards the people because it used to be at home. Oh, how did you not get that? No, it's a lot more sympathetic. It's very different when you're up there. And the things you remember at home on the couch are totally different than what you remember in the moment on stage.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so were there any categories that you wish you'd seen in your respective games?
That Chester Arthur category. I would have liked that Chester Arthur category.
Man, I wish I could have given it to you. I was joking. I bet the sound guy was having a grand old time listening to me mutter under my breath as they read off that.
Yeah.
I probably would have liked a little bit more. The masterclass category that I got was kind of as much pop culture as I got. I would have liked maybe a little bit more. But beyond that, I felt okay.
Yeah, I mean, I can't help it but think, boy, I studied the U.S. presidents really hard and had exactly one, maybe two questions about the U.S. presidents. So that's why I think of the Chester Arthur category as something that I would have appreciated getting because I worked pretty hard to be ready for it.
Yeah.
But I certainly had some fun ones given me. The Beatles lyrics, the palindromes. Oh my gosh, those palindromes were fun too.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Rhyme Time. And I would actually like to publicly state that mammals category that I got was the first time I professionally used my biology degree since college graduation.
Oh yeah, very
So
nice, very
my mom
nice.
was very pleased.
So, online testing is coming up in a couple of weeks. So, do you have any tips for. Actually, it's coming up next week, I should say. So, do you have any tips for prospective online test takers?
Kate, your turn to
Do
go
it.
first.
Do
Yeah,
it.
that's
Just
the
take the
first one.
test. Just I when I took the test last year, I was like, meh, maybe I did okay. And you never know how you're going to do until they call you up and go, hey, guess what? We want you to come back. So definitely, if you're thinking about it, do it.
Yeah, and don't use an iPad or an iPhone. I had a cousin who said, "Oh yeah, I'm going to take the test," and then he said, "Oh, I had so much trouble getting it to work on my iPad," and I'm like, "Oh, not an iPad.
Yeah,
You need a real keyboard." There's your advice.
yeah. Real keyboard, preferably not public Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, so are there any questions that you thought are any things you thought I'd bring up tonight but didn't? Or any questions you have for each other or even me?
Uh, usually, I'm more prepared than this. I don't know.
All right, I'll start.
Yeah.
All right, Andy, questions for you.
Ooh.
If and when you're on Jeopardy someday, what is the one category? And Kate, this applies to you certainly as well. I don't mean to exclude you because I don't need to. What is the one category that might have you make a Claven wager? You've
Canadian
got a runaway
geography.
game. I say Canadian geography. There you go. He's ready.
There was
Canadian geography.
it's funny because there was a Canadian there was a maybe 4 6 weeks ago there was a Final Jeopardy where the category was Canada, and I'm like, yeah, I probably would have at least considered clavening that one if I'd been in that spot.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep. And Kate, what about you? Harry Potter
Oh,
houses?
yeah. Oh, oh, I don't know. See, I'm thinking like, oh, there's so many things, but really, in the moment, I bet I'd panic.
Sure.
Probably. I mean, if it was Harry Potter, obviously, I'd just go all the way with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But maybe less surprisingly, rock music, maybe.
Ah,
Okay.
fun. Fun. Yeah, I'd be pretty excited about rock music too.
Yeah.
And my answer when somebody asked me this, which is what made me think of it, was quotes from The Wire. I think I'd do real well with
Okay.
quotes from The Wire. I'd probably be
Yeah.
tempted to bet it all even in a runaway.
Nice.
So I've got a couple of questions or comments on the hashtag. This one from Michael Thomas to you, Rob. Were you on the
Mhm.
Weakest Link a while ago?
I was 15,
Oh,
16 years ago, 2002.
How did that
The
go
the
for you?
Miraculously I won. We could talk for another 45 minutes about how no one expects to win in the weakest link, and yet I did. There's one moment that I could point at. It's a 1.5 second clip where everybody makes an irrational decision that led to me winning. So it's fun to talk about. But yes, I was on the weakest link, and I was not the weakest link. It was the
nice.
daytime version, so I did not get to meet Anne Robinson. Instead, it was George Gray was the host.
Yes.
But great fun. That was my first game show experience and gave me the taste. But frankly, it didn't compare to Jeopardy. Night and day.
So how are you're definitely saying it's completely different. So like
Hmm.
how are like backstage, like how different is it in terms of how the weakest link contestant coordinators treat contestants compared to how Jeopardy coordinators treat contestants?
And it wasn't a matter of not feeling well treated. And granted, it was 16 years ago, so I don't remember it that clearly in my old age. But it was certainly always a good time. I remember it being maybe a little bit boring as far as maybe a little extra sit around and do nothing time. But it was more just they were maybe not such a well-oiled machine, and they were maybe not so obviously having fun at every step of the game the way that the Jeopardy backstage experience was. You could tell that everybody back backstage at Jeopardy's set. They've been doing it for 20 years, and they're having fun, and it's efficient, and so that's really where the enjoyment comes from. Plus, Jeopardy. Let's be honest, Jeopardy is a better game.
Mm-hmm.
The weakest link. I answered about a dozen questions, and I got lucky. That's really what it boiled down to.
Yeah. So, anything else you thought I'd bring up, or any other questions you have for each other or me?
I mean, I had an answer prepared for how does the millennial blogger not get meme as the final Jeopardy answer.
Well, if you're going to bring it up, you may as well go ahead and address it.
Yeah. And I mean, in retrospect, yes, it was super easy to figure that out. But even Alex, actually, after the tape stopped, it was that 1994. I was 5 in 94. I did not read that Wired article. Yeah. And so I was trying to think what was even a word in 1994. And I couldn't lose viral in my brain.
Yeah. Sure.
And so I kept trying to shake that, and I was like, 4 letters, I don't know. So cool was the only 90s word that I even thought.
Exactly.
And I knew it didn't fit.
Yeah, with only 30 seconds going by, if you get stuck on the wrong avenue like that, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I understand the frustration the internet was having with me on that one. And yes, I should have known better. And believe me, it has haunted me ever since, because my biggest fear has been, will the millennial who doesn't get meme become one herself? And knock on wood, hasn't happened yet.
I think you're okay.
I think you've passed that. I think you're going to be good.
Yeah. And I got, no, I shouldn't say a fair amount, but there was certainly a couple of articles written about, look at these 3 Jeopardy contestants who've never heard of Kendrick Lamar's biggest hits.
Yeah, I felt bad about that one.
We all just stood and stared. I didn't know him. I love Black Panther and I love the music, but I didn't know any of Kendrick Lamar's hits.
Yeah, that was a rough one to watch the internet kind of react to that one, because I knew it was just one of those things that in the moment on stage, you don't know what you don't know until you don't know it.
Absolutely.
I thought that was a little bit, I definitely think, at the $2,000 level, I think it's a little bit unfair to criticize contestants for what they're, not answering. So.
And every question is easy to somebody.
That's exactly right.
As Alex said at my November audition, the hardest question is the one you don't know the answer to. So.
That's right. Always.
So on that note, I think it's probably a one other thing I wanted to say. I think Mike Godwin was happy that it was his article that was quoted in Final Jeopardy, but I saw a tweet and a Facebook post from him. He was particularly pleased at the my article got cited in Final Jeopardy. How about that?
That's cool.
But on that note, I think I'd like to thank the both of you for joining me on #Jeopardy Live Panel this evening.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Andy.
And we'll be back next Monday night with another episode talking about this week's games. So thank you all so much for joining me, the two of you for joining me on the panel, and for everyone who tuned in. So I'm Andy Saunders, for Rob, for Kate. Thank you